Hey, be careful, everybody. It is Friday the 13th. Do you believe in that sort of thing? I want to say good morning. I also want to say thank you for those who are subscribers to the Smerconish YouTube channel. If you've not subscribed, hit that subscribe button and something else to be notified or reminded of when I'm on live on YouTube. Ring that bell. Do both of those things. Subscribe to the newsletter. You'll be good to go. This is my favorite weekend in pro football. Interesting, by the way, the NFL has announced that Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the home of Atlanta, get it, would be the potential neutral location if there is a Buffalo KC AFC championship, which is kind of interesting. In the palm of my hand, I've got everything I need for the pro football playoffs that begin tomorrow, then continue Sunday. And then on Monday, you've got Dallas and Tampa Bay, which is just really great. Get the odds, get the bets, the slots, the games right in the palm of your hand. It's safe and it's secure. It's easy to use. The BetPark Sportsbook and Casino app, the only sportsbook and casino app that I recommend. You get to do a lot more than just bet on the score, which is what makes it fun. A lot of those prop bets, kind of thing that you do for the Super Bowl, you could be doing every weekend, every game. Got to be 21 and in Pennsylvania or New Jersey. See betparks.com for full terms and conditions. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Time now for the headlines from Smerconish.com, the newsletter. Kind of interesting, not really funny because it's predicated on a little bit of tragedy. I was scheduled to be on CNN this morning at 7 a.m. to talk about, what do you think? Yeah, to talk about, of course, the Biden documents, the discovery in the garage, the Corvette, the significance, comparison to Trump, yada, yada, yada. And when I woke up very early this morning, I woke up to a flurry of emails that said that I was getting moved in terms of the time. I was getting moved to like 10 of 7 because there was a more prominent story that needed to be given the coveted, 7 a.m. Like 7 a.m. is prime time for the morning shows. MSNBC, Fox, CNN, whatever the lead story is of the day, you can rest assured that at 7 o'clock and 1 second, that's what they're going to go with. So what do you think they told me I was being bumped for or moved? Lisa Marie Presley's passing. And with truly no disrespect to Lisa Marie Presley, man, 54 is too damn young, right? And she'd already lost a son, which is just a double tragedy. I didn't get it. Like, I just didn't understand. And then lo and behold, I did my hit, talked about Biden at about 10 minutes to 7, and then sat back in my studio where I can look at the monitors for MSNBC, CNN, and Fox, and they were all covering the tragic passing of Elvis's only child, who we had just seen at the Golden Globes and wasn't looking all that great, but a terrible, terrible tragedy. What is my point? My point is that there are two big stories today in the country. One of them is very political and one is very far from the political battles of the day. You can guess which is my poll question, however. This is what I worded. Which is more politically damaging? Biden's possession of classified documents or his handling of the controversy so far? When I was on CNN talking about this, I quoted today's radio guest, Lanny Davis, because Lanny Davis, friend of Bill and friend of Hillary and a crisis manager in addition to being a lawyer. Like the kind of guy you call if you get jammed up and you're a celebrity and you want to make sure that it's being handled correctly, not only from a legal standpoint, but also from a PR standpoint. What is Lanny's mantra? Tell it early, tell it all, tell it yourself. And that's exactly what the Biden White House and the president up until today have not done. They've not told it early. To the contrary, they've not told it all, and the president hasn't told it himself. And I think, and I'm not providing him with a defense because, he's the man. He's the chief executive. He's the president. He needs to take control of this. But I don't think the people around him are serving him particularly well. And I don't think you can send Karine Jean-Pierre out in front of the White House press corps to simply repeat on a loop that the president takes classified materials very seriously. They've completely mishandled this. And, that old line that says that sometimes the cover-up is worse than the crime, I think applies here, although I don't believe that there's an underlying crime having been committed by President Biden, because I don't think he was deliberate in his conduct. But still, you get what I'm saying. And that's where I'm going with the poll question. They're compounding this. This is an unforced error. And it does raise some interesting questions about, to quote Howard Baker, what did the president know and when did he know it? When did he know about the discovery made on December 20? I'll get to the timeline in just a second. Interesting that a month ago, the Washington Post wrote about past cases with classified papers that show the legal risk for Donald Trump. In other words, they published a story when we were only focused about Trump and we didn't know that Biden had a related, I'll say, issue. In Maryland, listen to this. Harold Martin, a former government contractor, took home a huge number of hard and digital copies of classified materials, the equivalent of 500 million pages. Though he never shared it with anyone, he's midway through a, wait for it, 9-year sentence. Wow. The U.S. attorney responsible for his prosecution, the prosecutor was actually a lawyer named Harvey Eisenberg, who might be on my CNN program tomorrow. But it was Robert Kerr, the U.S. attorney was, who's now been named special counsel. And with regard to Harold Martin, the government contractor, Robert Kerr said, for nearly 20 years, Harold Martin betrayed the trust placed in him by stealing and retaining a vast quantity of highly classified national defense information entrusted to him. Now, why did he do it? Why did this guy do it? According to the Washington Post, he's a hoarder. In the Maryland case, investigators concluded that Martin, the government contractor, was likely a hoarder who had no intent of sharing or selling the country's secrets. The Washington Post reporting has come to the same conclusion about Donald Trump. In November, they said that federal agents had come to believe that Trump had no financial or transactional motive for allegedly taking and keeping classified documents. They said that prosecutors believed that Trump acted largely on his desire to hold on to the materials as trophies or mementos, presumably to impress people. That's why he had it. What is the criteria for a prosecution? The criteria for prosecuting somebody who improperly handled classified documents, prosecutors have to prove that the person deliberately flouted the rules for how to store the material securely while knowing it was classified or secret national defense information. In other words, prosecutors don't have to establish evidence that the person tried to sell the classified material or shared it with others. I mean, by that standard, it seems that Trump has exposure for deliberately flouting the rules and knowing it was classified. That doesn't appear to be the case with Biden, at least as far as we know, which only, reinforces or underscores me asking the question of, then why hasn't he been more forthcoming? At Smerconish.com today, you can see a timeline that's been assembled. I think we went with the ABC timeline on what we know right now. And if I can just run through some of these dates, I think it'll make an important point. So November 2nd, we're just a couple of days ahead of the midterm election. Biden's lawyers discovered a small number of classified documents in what the White House has described as a locked closet for an office that Biden used with the Biden Penn Center. Interesting question, by the way. Why were lawyers going through those documents? Is it because after the whole Trump fiasco at Mar-a-Lago, people around the president said, hey, let's make sure we don't have something? I mean, I said on radio yesterday, of course, in wherever President Obama's office is these days, Chicago, Washington, I don't know. rest assured, there are some underlings who are looking through all the filing cabinets and making sure they don't have a problem. But it was November 2nd. It was November 2nd. And that then tips off a process where they tell the archives retrieves the material, and the archives then tells the Justice Department. Okay? Continuing on with the chronology. December 20, Biden lawyers tell Lausch, the U.S. attorney in Chicago, they tell him that, whoa, we found now more documents. This time they're in the garage of the president's Wilmington, Delaware home. December 20. Lausch then tells that to Merrick Garland, tells him a special counsel is warranted. Now fast forward to this week, Monday, CBS reports on the existence of the documents at the Biden Center, which causes the president on Tuesday in Mexico City to have to respond to this. And he says he was surprised to learn in the fall of the classified documents having been at the think tank. But what the president didn't say Tuesday is that there were also those documents found in Wilmington on December 20. Why didn't he? I mean, either he didn't know, and if he didn't know, it begs the question of, well, why wasn't he told? Why wouldn't the president have been told from December 20 through January 10, which was Tuesday, of the discovery in Wilmington? If he did know, then why didn't he say so? And I think the lawyers in this case are trying to shield him a little bit, because the White House story, as told by Karine Jean-Pierre, is that the president doesn't know what the documents are. Well, why don't they tell him? Well, they don't want to tell him because then when the media say, hey, why did you have the, hypothetically, Ukrainian classified document, he's going to have to respond to that. So the handling of it has been shoddy. They got to get out in front of this. All they're doing is boosting Trump. It's not an apples to apples comparison. I get it. I got the memo. I'm in the media. I'm obligated to tell you they're not the same case. Trump, thumbed the eye of the FBI, as I've been saying. There's no evidence of Biden having done that. But come on. I mean, the conversations we had on radio 2 days ago about people who objected when I said this makes it much more difficult to prosecute Trump only for the Mar-a-Lago documents, I stand by my position on that. The Lisa Marie story, also covered at Smerconish.com today. Can I tell you that there are a lot of celebrity remembrances? I saw that Nicolas Cage, to whom she was married to Nicolas Cage. She was married to Michael Jackson. I don't remember who else she was married to. I think 2 other people, one of whom at the end may have been with her when she had the cardiac arrest. But Nicolas Cage released a statement and said, "This is devastating news. Lisa had the greatest laugh of anyone I ever met. She lit up every room, and I am heartbroken. I find some solace believing she's reunited with her son, Benjamin." In Mark Halpern's Wide World of News today, he shared this anecdote, this vignette, which I thought was really great. Mark says, in 1994, President Clinton was attending a G7 summit in Naples, Italy. One of my great skills in covering the 42nd president was figuring out what I could shout at him as he passed by the media to compel him to come over and talk to me, something he would do against the best advice and wishes of his staff. One morning during the summit, I was in the press pool when Clinton was going for a jog. By the way, all of a sudden I have a vision in my head of SNL when they used to show Clinton jogging in like an Adidas tracksuit right into McDonald's for a Big Mac. Back to Halpern. The pool was positioned just close enough outside as he finished his run for me to be able to shout to him and be heard. As we waited for the president to come by, I skimmed the Italian newspaper, one of which was breaking the out-of-nowhere news that Lisa Marie Presley and Michael Jackson had gotten married. Knowing of Clinton's interest in all things Elvis, I yelled to him as he came by, "What is your reaction to Lisa Marie Presley marrying Michael Jackson?" Clinton heard me as he went past, slowed, did a visual double take, and then circled back to ask if I was serious. A small but significant victory for the free press, and for the record, I was even more incredulous about the report than Bill Clinton was. A lot of remembrances also being heard for Jeff Beck, the guitar virtuoso, Robert Plant, Sir Rod Stewart, Ronnie Wood of the Rolling Stones, Eric Clapton, all weighing in. Read that account at Smerconish.com today. I thought, in other music news, I thought John Fogerty had already won his battle over the rights to the Creedence catalog. But apparently, according to Variety, no, only now. Quote, capping one of the longest and nastiest legal battles in music history, John Fogerty has gained worldwide control of the publishing rights to his CCR songs more than 50 years after they were released. Remember, he had a famous battle, said that he signed a horrible contract, a lot of litigation. It took him out of the biz for a while because, as I remember, he had no incentive to perform, to write music because he wasn't going to own it. As Variety reports, it consumed decades of the artist's life, sidelined his music career for many years, although upon its acquisition, Encore quickly improved the terms of the deal. Also interesting data, Creedence's late 60s, 70s heyday, huge. They reportedly sold more records than the Beatles in 1969, but they were freakishly brief in terms of their success. They scored an incredible 7 top 5 singles, 5 top 10 albums, 2 of them number ones in just over 2 years, and then faded as quickly as the group splintered and finally split up in 1972. Poll results from yesterday, thanks for the 17,569 votes that were cast. Is the mental health crisis among American youth the result of big tech's design and marketing of social media? Do we agree with what's being alleged in that litigation brought by the Seattle Public Schools against the big tech giants, blaming big tech for the mental health crisis in the United States? 73.74% of the more than 17,000 who voted at my website yesterday agree and say, yes, the mental health crisis is the result of this. I'm optimistic that Jean Twenge is going to be on my CNN program tomorrow. She, the author of iGen, a lot of her data relied upon in this litigation. And finally, there is this. Finally, there is this at Smerconish.com today. Happy birthday, Alice Herrick, who does a terrific job as the editor of Smerconish.com, the newsletter, the dispatch. You get that in your in-bin every day because of her hard work and early morning hours. Now, if you've listened to Alice on air as I've welcomed her into the fold, you may know she's got a very interesting background. And it's hard like to read her resume without saying, wait a minute. You were sort of raised in a circus environment and may have set a world record for walking on a high wire in high heels. She's told the story here before, and today in Smerconish.com, on her birthday, at my request, she writes about this whole chapter of her life and a very interesting revelation. She said this: if you've caught me on the program before, you probably heard Michael touting my unofficial world record for tightrope walking in high heels. I shamelessly highlighted during my initial interview so he would remember me. That worked. He also gave me the green light to write an article about my upbringing in the circus and to answer some of the most frequent questions I still receive about tightrope walking. Yes, like I want to know, did she put a groove in her shoes to make it easier? No is her answer, by the way. Well, now new revelations. She said, this past Wednesday, I was cruising the web as I normally do for 90% of the day when I found an article about a young acrobat, Ariana Wonderly, the daughter of the founder of the circus camp I was in as a kid, who broke my record in May of 2022. She walked back and forth on a wire 52 times, shattering my record by 570 feet. So apparently, Alice does not hold the record for high wire walking in high heel shoes. I don't know what we're going to do about this. I mean, it's like I've got a George Santos situation on my hands here. I feel like I hired her under false pretenses. I'll tell you what we are going to do. We have got to have a live event. We've got to have a live event where Alice puts on the high heels and has at it in front of a live audience, and on YouTube and on SiriusXM and everywhere else. So she apparently doesn't have that record, but we wish her a happy birthday nonetheless. Guess who does have a record? Speaking of Guinness, Elon Musk. He broke the world record for the largest loss of a personal fortune in history. Yeah, so there you go. Brings it all full circle. All right, go answer today's poll question at Smerconish.com about the Biden docs. What's worse? Sort of the underlying conduct or the way the White House is handling it. I think it's the way the White House is handling it based on what we know so far. Hope to see you on CNN tomorrow at 9 a.m. I'll do a YouTube Live as usual, 7:30 Philly time on a Saturday morning. Stay safe. It is the 13th. It's Friday the 13th. That's what I wanted to say. Enjoy the football this weekend, and I'll see you on TV tomorrow.